Hey everyone, and welcome to A Great Alternative. In today's episode of Cordage from Foraged Fibres, I'm going to be talking about wild garlic. So if you've seen one of these episodes before, you know the score. I'm going to talk about IDing the plant, harvesting, preparing, storing, all that stuff, and then I'm going to get onto a very simple cordage, which today, because I'm out on location, I don't have the second camera with me, so I'll show a little bit, but you know how to make a 2-ply simple cordage, so I'm not going to delve into that one. It's just going to go, like I said, IDing the plant, harvesting it, storing it, and then using it to make a cordage, and then overall, my evaluation, and whether I think it would be a good cordage to use. First up though, I've got my trusty script to read out some more facts about wild garlic. Part of the Liliaceae family, wild garlic is a medium-sized bulbous perennial with a distinctive and pungent garlicky smell. It grows well within damp woodlands and is native to Europe and Asia. It is a wild relative of onion and garlic, all belonging to the same genus Allium. It has long, pointed and oval leaves with untoothed edges. They grow from the plant base and the bulb. The flowers are small, white, with 6 petals on a thin stalk. Around 25 flowers form each rounded flower cluster, which is held high on a single leafless stalk. Wild garlic reproduces through bulbs, bulbils, and very occasionally seeds. The seeds are 2 to 3 millimeters long, flattish on one side, black, and are dispersed when the parts of the plant above ground die down. Another thing that I love about wild garlic is that it's an ancient woodland indicator plant. So if you spot it while you're out exploring, it could be a sign that you're standing in a rare and special habitat. Now, important note, not to be confused with lily of the valley, or lords and ladies. Lily of the Valley and Lords and Ladies are both poisonous. Lords and Ladies can even give some people a rash to touch, so it's well worth doing your research first. Lily of the Valley has very similar spear-shaped leaves to wild garlic, but in Lily of the Valley, the leaves come out of a central core rather than wild garlic where it does not. So check that base first. For Lords and Ladies, when they're older, the leaves are clearly different from wild garlic, but when they are younger, they can be similar. However, if you look closely, one of the clear ways to differ them is that Lords and Ladies have a much more veined leaf. Alongside checking a whole bunch of different sources to do research beforehand, the way that I'm certain when I'm picking is to pick one leaf at a time, so I can kind of quality control each leaf and make sure that I'm picking the right thing. So please be aware, and if you're not sure, then just don't go for it, don't pick it. Wild garlic has traditionally been used in medicine, the bulb being one of the key ingredients in tonics for rheumatic problems and high cholesterol. It's often used for treating cardiovascular, respiratory and digestive problems, as well as for the sterilisation of wounds. It is a popular foraged ingredient as all parts are edible. It has a mild garlic flavour and is at its best before the flowers appear. However, the flowers can also be eaten. Popular dishes using the plant include pesto, soups, pasta, cheeses, scones and devonades. It can be eaten raw in salads or blanched and used in place of spinach, or made into a garlic butter or preserved by salting or pickling. For harvesting, I've tried not to take too much, but luckily here it's very much abundant because this is an ancient woodland that we're in. I've seen it sometimes on the edge of farmers' fields and sometimes you get smaller patches, so therefore you don't want to take too much, especially from one plant. The way to harvest is I've generally been reaching down. If you're harvesting it for food, you can reach down right to the base of the plant and pick off a bit of this stem, because you can eat that too and that's fine. For cordage related purposes, I've not been doing that. I've been collecting it from that bit there. So I'm not getting as much of the stem because I'm not going to use the stem for cordage. So this is nice and fresh. So this won't be what we're using today. What I've harvested has been drying out for about a week now. I think at least about 2 weeks would be really good. It started to get a little bit brittle, and I think we're going to struggle because obviously of the size of the leaves. So therefore when I harvested, I tried to go for his leaves as big as I can, but a week ago they weren't as grown as they were now in the place that I went to. All I'm going to do now to get these ready for making cordage with is spray my trusty, I see it's written on both sides. Well done, Alicia. With a bit of water. Not too much, because we don't want them to get slimy, which I think they would do. So just enough to just dampen them. Because it's so thin, what I've learned with making some of the cordage, if you're short, if you're working with a leaf that's quite short, then you want to get it as thin as possible, because then it's easier to make a consistent cordage. Whereas if you've got a leaf, like one of the ones, for example, that we've got here, because of this bit, once it's dried, it's quite fat in the middle here, and there's not much space between where you're attaching new pieces of cordage. But if you're working with thinner pieces like this, it's potentially more consistent. You could maybe even actually cut it with a knife. That'd probably be the most easy, because then you really are getting consistent pieces of material or fibre, to work with. So for today, this is going to be a bit of a challenge, because, like I said, I didn't do that to begin with. Like with a lot of these, this is my first time having a go at making cordage with this material, with this fibre. So we're all learning together. So I'm just being very careful to try my best to strip this in nice uniform pieces. Okay, I've thinned down a good amount there. Definitely what I've learned is this would have been much easier if I'd split this first while it was still fresh. Probably just using a knife. I've ended up splitting things mainly into two, but I reckon you could probably thin it down further, because bear in mind that once it dries, this spine, is that the right term for it, down the middle, that's going to be a little bit thicker than the other bits. So you almost want to cut just the spine and then the other bits of leaf. So into three really is how I would personally do it. For today though, like I said, not going to delve too much into how to make a cordage, because you've seen it before. Twist until it kinks over itself. Then with your right hand, if you're right-handed like me, twist, over, twist, over. Oh, okay. But that's not a surprise. So it's very, very, obviously because we're working with a very, very thin piece, it is very easy to break, basically. But once we get it started, I think we'll be okay. So I'm only going to do a quick couple of twists, and then I'm going to instantly add another piece. Again, you're just laying on top. Imagine this is your piece of cordage. You're laying it on top like this, so there's a piece on both sides, and then just continue, twist over, twist over. I think what I'll probably do is add a new piece every 2 or 3 twists. And then, like I said, hopefully that will make a much more consistent cordage. Now, just continue. And if you're out like me today, sit, enjoy the extremely strong smell of garlic, listening to the birds, and yeah, enjoying being in the woods. Okay, some wild garlic cordage. What have I learned? So, first up, it's short, so it's a bit fiddly to try and keep mixing things together. You have to keep adding things quite regularly. Now, as a cordage, would I use this? Would I recommend it to yourselves? Depends what you're going to use it for. If you want to use a cordage for actually to hang anything, for any actual practical purposes that you would want a cordage for, no. I don't think this is strong. I reckon I could pull this apart. I'm not going to, because I'm certain that I could just go and it'd pull apart very, very easily. Better than, for example, banana peel. That fell apart, you know, I barely even breathed on it and it would snap. But definitely not a strong cordage. However, I expected that because of the type of the leaf and the fibres within it. I expected that this wouldn't be a very strong cordage. What I would recommend this for, and what I thought this would be great as, is in essence, once it's dried, you're making kind of like a, you know, dried herb decorative piece. So you could create something like a present or a food item that you then wrap using your cordage and make a nice little bow, and you wrap up your, I don't know, pizza pocket, whatever, in something like this, and then it adds a nice little edible kind of accessory to something that you're doing. And I think that'd work really well with something like this. Comments down below, what do you think you would use wild garlic cordage for? An edible cordage, what would you use with it? You know, is it something that you could just take with you and you'd add it and separate a bit and just add a bit into your dishes? Otherwise, I've got a few quick thank yous to say. So first up, thank you to the people, you know who you are. I'm not going to name names in this video, but you know who you are. You've given me access to this woodland. This is a private woodland and there's just so much wild garlic around here and there's not much right near where I'm living, so thank you so much for letting me use this. Also, a quick shout out to Coed, Lleol and Tara Crank. Some of the footage that I've used is from a wild garlic cooking course that I did for Coed, Lleol. So some of that footage was used from them, and it includes Tara Crank, who takes us, she actually introduced me to wild garlic, IDing it and then cooking with it. So yeah, I'll leave some links below if you want to check out Coed, Lleol or Tara Crank. Otherwise, if you're interested, I also will be making a cordage cheat sheet on how to do this and added to our Patreon. Along with all the other cordages that I've made, I've got an accompanying cordage cheat sheet up on the Patreon. So if that's something that you might be interested in, then please, you can support us. And then if you support us, you can get access to that cordage cheat sheet. Otherwise, that's it for today, everyone. Thank you again for joining me out in the very pungent woods, and I'll see you in the next one.